I'm so excited to have Krisha here as our guest. Krisha is so well renowned in the theatrical casting venue of mainly TV shows, right, Krisha?
Yeah.
Multi-camera comedies.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of her shows in her history has been kid shows. But there are many, many, all adults on these shows supporting the storylines. And I am fascinated with short scenes and short scene study. In fact, in my commercial coaching and teaching, I base it on short scene study. So, Krisha is the one to talk to us about what makes a good short scene audition? What stands out?
Mhm.
Where should we start, Krisha?
Yeah, really. I think the number one thing that I always like to say about any scene, whether it's a short scene or a longer scene, no matter what size the role is, to really understand where you're coming from. I talk a great deal about what is that moment before that is driving the top of the scene, even if it's a scene that has one line or one word, even is understanding where you're coming from and what the urgency level of urgency and what the goal is for that scene. um, Even if you're coming in and telling somebody to stop, why are you telling them to stop? What all of those kinds of questions are the number one thing for me that I'm looking for, is that life before the scene actually starts and bringing it into that the performance.
So, when you're looking at the auditions, how can you tell, like, how would you describe any adjectives of what makes a good audition stand out, makes you, want to see more?
It is that phenomenon where brilliant actors manage to marry the words on the page with themselves, because I'm not looking for an actor, somebody who's put on the actor coat and is wearing somebody else's clothes. It needs to come from truth, from that place of truth and you. And it's like, imagine walking in the shoes of the character, but just as you. We always want you to be you. I don't want anybody to be different, but I also am, now that almost everything is self-tape, what I'm really looking for is that the scene has a life before your words. And oftentimes I find newer actors or actors, even when they're not practiced, right? During COVID, where people sort of fell out of practice of auditioning, is that they would be just sort of standing there waiting for their turn to talk. And
Mm.
that's not how life works. And so I'm always looking for that life that is happening what beforehand, whether that you were looking at something else and then you got brought into the scene, or and that can all be done on a self tape just with a little movement. Just, you don't have to start facing camera or facing the other actor. You can have life. I do dishes in my house and still have full conversations with people off to the side. So you can always create that life without focusing on the other actor. That's not to say don't focus on the other actor, but just create that life, that moment before life.
Speaking of other actors and the environment that you're creating, I have two questions. Do you want actors to have someone else playing the other character?
Yes, a good solid reader is going to be very important. I know that people ask me oftentimes about the reader, and I will say the best reader is someone who acts at your level or acts better than your level. So if you've got the choice of having your child be the reader versus your actor friend from acting class, or um,
Your
whatever,
husband
your
or
husband,
wife.
choose wisely. Exactly. And some people will say to me, does it matter if they have an accent, or does it matter? And does it ultimately matter? No, but it is very distracting when it's a small child who isn't reading at the same pace that we would need, because they're reading versus performing, and versus having the other part of the conversation as the actor is. If it's someone with a very thick accent, that can also have the timing of the conversation feel odd. So just have an awareness and give yourself the best opportunity, because as casting directors, especially in my field, um, I'm like the buyer, and then I turn around and sell. So I have to be able to sell that audition to my producers, who are also the writers. And they're not used to seeing auditions all day long. And so they are looking for the audition to really be as close to what they would put right on stage. And so no, I shouldn't say a bad reader. I should say a reader that's not at the same pace, or a reader who is literally reading instead of giving any type of a performance, um, can be distracting for them.
Speaking of, thank you. That's great. Speaking of distracting, you mentioned do something, a pre-life, doing the dishes. What about the background that people should use? Should they actually be in the kitchen?
Mm.
They have, do you care about backgrounds? Can you talk a
Such
little
a tough
bit?
question, because we're asking actors to now be not only the best actors they can possibly be, but also be a lighting director, a lighting and a director and a sound director, and have props and all the things. I am a big believer in the best audition has nothing behind you at all, nothing distracting, nothing for anybody else to look at. This is my office. I'm sitting in it right now. I look at this screen all day, every day, at little heads all day, every day. So if you give me anything to look at other than your head, I will for sure be looking at that, just because it gives me something else to look at for the day. So and because I know that's what people do, I do it all the time. Try and give us just your beautiful self to look at instead of anything behind you. That being said, if you are on vacation, or the only place where you can get a camera and the good lighting is with things behind you, don't stress. It's okay. If we absolutely have to re-record the audition, we can do that. We just need to have it be as the best we can get for that time. I have hired people who have sent me auditions that they recorded in a bathroom. I have hired people that have sent me auditions that they recorded in the backyard, in a parking lot. So it's okay. But I always say people want to stress about the things they can tangibly control, because they can tangibly control those things. So they worry about them, when ultimately it's the unseen connection, the heart, mind, body, soul connection to the character, that no matter what the rest of the audition looks like, that's what is always going to shine through.
Good. And do they write you a note like, sorry, I'm on vacation, I'm not at my studio, or no
Sometimes people
surprise?
do. Yeah. Sometimes people will send a note and saying, sorry, couldn't get any quiet outside, like especially people in New York. No matter where you are in New York, it doesn't, unless you've got a full sound booth in your house, there's going to be honking and cars and noise out the window because you're in the middle of New York City. It's okay. We're used to filtering it out and we just do the best we can. Everybody's doing the best they can with the circumstances we're in. So,
Great. So you mentioned that most of your work is multi-camera comedy.
yes.
How is that different? Is there a different pacing? How is that different than a single camera?
Absolutely. Multi-camera comedies were born from the theater. They are as close to a theatrical performance as you can kind of get without being in a theater. Um, I think the very first, if I'm not mistaken, the very first multi-camera comedy was I Love Lucy, where they just stuck cameras in the audience of the show so that they could get it all going. And you can go right back into watching old episodes of I Love Lucy, and you will see the pacing is just quicker. Um, there's a very fine line in multi-camera comedy where you want the pace to be fast, but you still want the performance to be grounded. So you're still trying to be as believable as possible and let the words and the situation have the comedy in them, keep the pace going. And I like to say pace isn't talking faster, it's replying faster.
Mhm.
So in a drama, you would listen, think about your response, and there would be this pause before you were able to respond. In a multi-camera comedy, I want to see that you've heard it, you've processed it, and you're replying as quick as possible, all at the same time. So you just don't have the luxury of the space, but it all still has to be there because you are still listening and responding with that timing.
Mhm.
I've had one director who just said, take all the air out of it. So no dead air space.
Mhm. So when you put a breakdown out, do you tell on your breakdown? Do you include multi-camera or do people just okay, I see
I do.
their
I
own
put it in. I put
research?
it in the breakdown. I also put it in the casting notes, and in the audition notes as well to say, this is a multi-camera comedy. Please, pick up the pace. Find that energy. Like when you're on stage and doing a theatrical performance, the energy, you get it from the other actors on stage. You get it from the fact that you have to be louder and have to be able to communicate the same emotions to the back row. That translates almost identically into multi-camera comedy. You have to be just that little bit bigger. It's that heightened sense of reality so that everyone can see it, much like theater. So it's that weird fine line.
Yeah, every venue has its own little quirky, commercials, like they, even though you have to be authentic and come off very real, there's a certain pacing and certain energy that's very much only onto commercials. It's very tricky.
Yeah, they're similar in that energy, in that heightened energy, but keeping it grounded and believable. I use Seinfeld as an example, oftentimes, just because the situations were so ridiculous, but they were always grounded in believability. You never didn't believe Kramer just burst through a door.
Right.
Because he did it with "This is what I do. I burst through doors,"
Right.
and and
Fully committed.
fully committed and fully believable to what that was, even though what was happening was ridiculous. He didn't do it being ridiculous. He did it being, this is what I do. And I say it oftentimes when we have to play I say the dumb character, when in a school, there's always the dumb
Yeah.
kids. People that are dumb don't know they're dumb. They think what they're saying is really smart.
Mhm.
So you can't say it with that affectation of, I don't know what I'm talking about. No, you do know what you're talking about. You're just saying those ridiculous things.
So for the day players
Hmm.
or the what are all the words for the people who are not
Yeah.
the main?
Co-stars, the smaller co-stars or um, day players, sure, those types of roles. Mhm.
So do you cast for some of them just out of your own knowledge of from people from other shows, or do you actually put breakdowns out for those?
Most of the time, we put out breakdowns for every role, um, and see new people for every role, plus people we know. So it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of these people we know will be amazing for these smaller roles, and we've never met these people, so let's see those people too. And then we, sort of see everybody and then see what people bring to those types of scenarios.
And do those roles on a callback come in to meet the producers?
They will oftentimes be cast off tape or
Mhm.
cast off of a casting callback. They wouldn't typically go to producers unless it's really, really specific. And that doesn't happen very often, mostly off a tape.
Great. I think those are my main questions. If there's anything
Okay.
I didn't cover that you want to communicate, go ahead. And then Jamie, do we have questions coming in yet?
Yeah, we do have a couple that I've flagged in the chat. So after Krisha talks about whatever else you'd like to address, we can definitely kick that off if you like.
Cool. Okay. What I will say is that I think that sometimes understanding that those smaller roles also are why they're part of the script. Some people think when they get a script, an audition for a one line, I'll call it one line. Sometimes it's one word, like I said, stop, whatever the word is, um, that it's not important. And I always say that those roles are almost the most important because they're the smaller, the purpose of those characters is to move the story forward. And as storytellers, actors are storytellers, as storytellers, that you're the important part of moving the story forward. So you have to take that with the importance that it has without trying to make the whole scene be about you, which is also a really fine line of understanding that what you're saying is really important and integral to the telling of the story, but it's a small bit, and you don't want to take away from the larger part of the story. So that's another important thing to note with people auditioning for those smaller co-star roles.
It's fascinating, actually, that you say that because I've cast a lot of small, low budget independent films. And at the end of the day, the smaller roles, like the director will have a choice of two or three, and he has to go home and sleep on it because he or she discusses with me. Well, that person is really doing it in a very interesting way, but that way changes the feel and
Hmm.
the meaning and the objectives. And maybe I will change it that way, but I'm not sure. That's not what I had in mind. So definitely, I absolutely know what you're saying. It's really fascinating how important those supporting roles are.
Absolutely. And how the fact that your directors have said, even let me think about it and maybe I'll go that way, supports what I say to people all the time is if you bring truth to the character, you can change anybody's mind.
Mhm.
I mean, it's as long as you're speaking from your mind, body, soul, and your truth. People will say to me all the time, "What are you looking for?" And I'm like, "I don't know till I see it half the time what I'm looking for. I have some ideas, but it's you bringing your own truth to whatever you're saying, and that it comes from that genuine space, that authentic, genuine, grounded, real space, heart space that I can connect to."
Hmm.
And that's what we're all looking for, is we're looking for that connection with that person on the screen.
Yeah. Now, these roles on people's resumes are very important, right? To get them to a higher level.
Absolutely. I mean, there are obviously exceptions to the rule, but I would say most of the time how it works with actors is you start booking whatever you start booking, and usually it's a smaller role. It's a smaller role, and you're building your resume with some co-stars, and then some more co-stars, and then maybe a guest star, and then maybe another guest star, and then back to some co-stars, and you're building your resume until you get to, the lead of whatever. And I think every role and every experience on set matters. It teaches you how to be a great person on set, and how to work in that collaborative environment.
Mhm. You know, I'm starting to think where you said these kind of roles don't go to producers. How do you tr and there is a certain timing to this multi-level, not level, camera, multi-camera. How do you trust? How do you know? Isn't it scary, like to hire someone new that
It
doesn't?
can be. I love that you said that, because yes, it can be. And that's often a conversation that we have, and we have it with our producers. So the tapes will go to the producers, and we will have a conversation with them um, about how I loved the delivery, but in the slate, maybe they said something odd, or they didn't feel confident. And so we are looking at that, and people will ask me about the slates as well all the time. I'm like, slating is your new introduction. It was where we used to be able to go, hi, nice to meet you. How are you today? In the casting room, I don't have that opportunity anymore. So your slate is your, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. It's filled with other pieces of information that need to get put in there because we need it for
Mhm.
casting purposes. But I always say you can just have a conversation.
But
It doesn't have to be so robotic.
yeah, but what about the timing? Like, how do you
Oh,
if they can come in like that? And isn't there marks that they have to hit, like when they're
yes.
talking and walking? And if they've never done that before, like how do they hit, how do these actors here who, want to move up the ladder, how do they learn to hit those marks?
Well, some of it is I'm a big believer in, some of it is you learn by doing. So once they book the role, they're gonna learn it fast. But the booking of the role and the audition process for me is really about trusting choice and being the brave uh, people that actors are, where they reveal self. And if I were in this situation, this is how I would behave, be, and come from that truthful place. You can really see it when they're pretending
Hmm.
versus being. And especially when we're comparing apples to apples to apples to apples to apples, which is what really happens when I'm watching every single one of those auditions over and over and over again. We're watching them back to back to back. So it's an easy comparison to see the people that are not being truthful.
Right. All right, I think now I've run out.
Okay. More questions.
Jamie, do you want to bring anyone up? I'm going to actually hide myself so someone can come up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go in order of when I saw the questions pop up in the chat. So Kyle Parker, I saw your question first. If you want to turn your camera on, I'll bring you up.
Sure. Hi. You caught me
Hi.
doing dishes.
I wait, I don't see him on
Um,
my view. Oh, I'm on speaker, that's why. Okay.
I,
Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, thank you very much for doing this, by the way.
Sure.
The moment before, how much freedom do we have? Is that a just quick beat, or how much time do I have before that's acceptable before you click on to the next audition page?
I think it is as much time as you need to create that moment for yourself. I think you take as much time as you want, and that's the beauty of self-taping, is that you really can take the time and create it. When you're actually going to send the tape, you may want to edit some of the top part of it out, so it's not, a minute. I like to say sort of 5 to 10 seconds prior to speaking or prior to someone speaking. So, and I'm also a big believer in, if you need to improv, add words, do whatever you need to do to help you create that, do that as well. Edit it
Okay.
out. Edit it out so that you're only sending us what we've asked for, but create it. Create the whole world if you need to. Create the conversation that drives you into the scene. Record the whole thing and then edit that first part out and just send us what we need.
Okay. Thank you. That's a
Does that make
brilliant,
sense?
yeah, that's an excellent suggestion. I haven't done that, so thank you very much. I appreciate
Absolutely. I'm like, be creative, go for it, have as much fun as possible. That's the beauty of that. Like, I know how to do a little bit of editing now.
Right on.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Kyle.
Thanks, Ad.
Jamie, I just changed Krisha and whoever is going to be up there to pinning, and now they're on
Yeah,
the screen without everyone else rather than
perfect.
spotlight.
Great. Okay. Next question I see is from Anush Navard. Anush, you want to come on up?
Hi, Anush.
You're on mute,
You
love.
have to
Hello,
take
Krisha.
time.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Jamie,
Nice to see
Good. It's
Jamie,
so good to
hold
see
on.
you again.
So I'm removing pin from Kyle, and then I'm replacing pin.
Yeah,
you.
I'm
There's
taking care of it,
Krisha.
Terry. Don't worry about it.
Well, no, it wasn't showing properly. So let me add pin. There we go.
All righty.
Mm.
All righty. I have a couple of questions, and one
Sure.
of them, first of all, thank you so much for coming on, and this is invaluable. So this is like a general in the olden days.
Yes.
Right? That's what I
Yes.
want from you.
Yes, so sweet. So thank you for taking the time. I have two questions. One of them is, I love to improv. However, um, I'm not interested I'm not interested in rewriting what I have in front of me, but sometimes I have an instinct to say something or to add an O or like ooh, or like something.
Mhm.
So you guys are cool with that? Or, how much improv are you not cool with or are
Yes.
cool with?
So I would say in a multi-camera comedy world, which is the world in which I 90% live, don't change the words. The writers are typically the executive producers and creators of the show and the showrunners. So
Mhm.
make sure you say the words that are on the page.
Mhm.
Also, you never know if you're going to mess up a joke that you're setting up that
Mhm.
you're not seeing, or there's reasons why, there's additional reasons why.
Mhm.
However, that being said, if you have an instinct for an O or like you were saying, those kinds of O, add them in. Feel
Mhm.
free to do what feels right if it's an addition to the scene, as long as it's not changing any words
Mhm.
for all the comedy reasons of it. So
Right.
I would say add where you need to add. Oh, bleh, and then say
Mhm.
whatever. That's fine
Uh-huh. And
without
a bu-
specifically changing
right.
the rules. Yeah.
And a button at the end, like if I don't have the last line, a button at the end could
Do it.
just be
Do it. If it feels the best way for you to end the scene, you need to
uh-huh.
do that button at the end. Do it.
Yes.
We're not going to necessarily use those. Or
Okay.
maybe the writers will go, that was great. That added to the scene. Let's use that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to do the button if it helps you, but I wouldn't do it just because, oh, I don't have the last line, so I'm going to do a button. No,
Totally.
only if it
Organic.
feels organic
Yeah.
and true to your character and you in the scene, do it.
Okay, that's my acting question. The next thing has to do with the business of acting, which is, we're hearing things that, stars are now getting direct offers for guest stars and things like that. So, what are you seeing these days that we may or may not know as actors, because we're not on the business end of things?
I also am only on one show, which is strange to only, work for, not just for actors, for casting. Work is really down. A lot of work has left LA specifically, and I know there's people on this Zoom who are from everywhere, which is amazing. That's what COVID did for us, and I'm grateful for that. Is to know that overall, I think there's a 30%, if I'm not mistaken. The last thing I read was the 30% drop in theatrical. So 30%, not just in LA, 30% across everything, drop in production. So that being said, every audition that you get, know that there's that many more people who are also auditioning for that role. That's what I have seen and my experience. What I will say right now is that there is a plethora of talent that are available for every single role. So yes, people are making offers. People who would never have done XYZ are now doing anything and everything they can get their hands on, because 30% is a lot for the industry to be slowed down. I think the pendulum is going to swing back, and I think it's going to happen, and there will be even more, because people really do want content and content creation and stories, and people are going to start demanding more and more to watch, and I think the pendulum will swing. It's just, how long can you stick it out? So it's like, keep the faith, find something to do to supplement in the meantime, and and keep going, because there's always been the ups and downs in the industry, and we're just in a down that we haven't seen before, which also makes sense after the weird COVID stuff, and then the rush back, and then the drop, and it kind of makes sense that we're in this weird dippy stuff. But I have faith that entertainment is never going to die, because everybody wants entertainment.
Absolutely.
That's the number one thing that people do, is entertainment and sports. So I don't think either of them are ever going to die.
I'm definitely praying for an uptick in comedy, because we have plenty of drama. Let's do more comedy. So
people need some funny.
Yes, we need to laugh.
Yep.
Krisha, isn't there renewed tax incentives for film and television in California?
Absolutely.
Not
There's
commercials, but film and television.
Film and television, there's some tax incentives that have been that are there. There's a strong competition for them. We need way more than what we currently have. But I just keep my fingers crossed that people are fighting the good fight, and it'll all come back. I just hold faith that it will.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, just in the interest of keeping it moving, so we have quite a few questions. We're going to move on to the next person. Thank you so much, Anush. All right, Charles George, I saw you had a question for Krisha, if you want to come up.
So I'm going to remove Anush's pin.
Yep.
I've been removing it too.
I don't know why it's not.
And then repinning the new people.
It's not going.
Is Charles coming?
Yes, I'm here. I'm so sorry, but when I clicked on Zoom, it says it can't access my camera, and I can't figure out why.
You can just ask.
No worries. Just ask away, my friend.
Yes, but my question is about the reader. I know early on in my career, after taking a class from Terry, I got tried out for reader, and just to keep it short, I didn't do it the right way like you said. So now I know. The problem is being in Texas and working from home, it is hard for me to get a reader that's good, that can read on my level or even better. And someone had mentioned a current acting coach said to look at We Audition. And I don't know if you've heard of We Audition. I've heard some mixed reviews about it.
I've had people in my classes who use it and love it. And then
Okay.
from other classes you've taken, stay in touch with those people where you like their acting.
Absolutely. And I don't know about We Audition. I don't know about apps, but I know that um, there's a resource out of New York from Jason Byer. Can't remember the name of that. Maybe it's We Audition actually, and maybe that's the app. I don't know that he did where he's trying to connect actors to other actors to be readers.
Yeah, Florina,
Okay.
I see she just put We Audition is great.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I've heard
Okay.
really good things about it.
That's great. I'm
Awesome.
also like whatever is out there that can help, but getting another actor to do the other lines with you is always going to be the best choice, even if it's on a Zoom.
Awesome. Okay. I haven't signed up for it, but now I think I will. Thank you.
Sure.
I do have a question about it, Joyce. Just say, like, how do you pick someone on it that you want? Like, what if someone says, "Oh, I'll do it," but you don't like them, so to speak. You don't like the way they audition. Like, how does that work?
Hi, yeah. So you can actually look at their profile and usually they'll say like, "Hey, I'm based in this place, like I'm based in LA." And you can also look at their IMDb and it tells you like their list of credits. And so you can also read like their reviews because after we're done reading with them, like people will say like, "Oh, this was a great reader and they really hit all the right beats," or they're very patient and encouraging and stuff like that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Great. Love that.
Cool. All right. Next person I saw was Allison Von Hausen. Allison, you want to come up? Perfect.
Hi, Allison.
Hi. Hello. Thank you both so much for the time and Happy New Year. Yay.
Here.
I just wanted to ask for the co-star roles you're casting, Krisha, that are very generic. Let's say like your
Yes.
waiter, your teacher, your receptionist. How many folks do you typically ask to tape for those roles? And then of that, is it like 50% people you already know and 50% new people? Or is it, how do you feel about that kind of thing?
I
Great
love this.
question. It's a great question, and people ask it often actually. So the answer to the question is, in terms of new people versus people we know, it's about 50-50.
Okay, cool.
It really is like we want to see people we know and trust, but we also want to find new people always. So we are about 50-50 that way. Um, the numbers will depend
Mm,
on how age group and how wide we've sent it. So, for example, we sent out a role that could be male or female, mid 20s.
mm.
Any
Everybody.
yeah, but wager a guess on how many submissions we got.
I'm gonna guess at least 5,000.
7,000.
There you go.
Oh,
7,000. So that took us like hours and hours and hours to go through, just to get it down to a manageable number of people to try and audition. It's a plethora of amazing actors out there right now. So I feel very lucky when we put out a breakdown at the amazing talent that we get thrown at us. That we haven't in the past. So it's a little bit of both. And ultimately, it depends on the size of the role and depends on, this is going to sound odd, but it depends on some of the comedy turns. Like some of the roles I anticipate actors are going to so get this. They're going to see the comedy in this and it's going to be amazing. And we start and nobody's really getting it
Mm.
or getting the comedy. And then there's other roles where I think nobody's going to get this. And everybody gets it. So I'm often wrong. So it can be anywhere from 35 to 150.
Okay.
Or more if we need to, or less if we find it right away. So there's no hard and fast number for anything. You know, if I'm putting out something really specific, like I'm looking for I use my girlfriend Amber's quote that she was looking for an 18 to 25-year-old one-legged actor. Naturally with one leg. Well, your pool is very, very small.
Sure.
Of actors who actually have one leg that can do this. So it just depends on what the role is. But generic, like what you're saying, like a waiter or a teacher, that could be male or female, or could, you know, be any sort of age. They could go from 30 to 50, or, you know, get this wide spectrum. We try and pick and choose and see a smattering of everything.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm like a spreadsheet nerd, so that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. So Carol Bogard, I saw you had a question, and also congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Hi, Carol. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Carol
I'm
took my commercial acting class.
very, I did. And Terry is absolutely the best.
I agree.
So my question is, you know, I just booked my first co-star, and I filmed yesterday. I go back Friday, and then I film again on Tuesday. And my question is, how soon is it appropriate to put that on my resume?
Right today, right now. Put it on there right away. You booked it, you're there. That's all that matters. Congratulations. And I will say it now just because people have done it for me many times. Just make sure you have the correct spelling of everything that you're putting on your resume.
Yes, I will. And you know, it's Law and Order SVU, so it's going to be NBC. Do I have to put the production company or does everybody know, you know?
Everybody knows, and I would put the name of the show, NBC, and then the name of the director.
The director, Mike. Sure. Okay.
And that's where I'm like, always make sure you get the spelling correctly on those directors. Because oftentimes if we're in a director session, so next time you're auditioning for a co-star or a guest star, and we're in a director session, the directors all know each other, right? Just like casting directors all know each other, directors all know each other. If you've worked with some other director and they want to get a reference or they want to check on something, that's how we all communicate on the backside.
That's fabulous. Yeah,
What are you playing, Carol?
I'm playing with jury foreperson.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and it's I mean, again, it's just one of those short things, and I've been auditioning for the casting directors, you know, for over a year. They kept calling me back in for different roles on Law and Order, on SVU, and yeah, finally got to be the jury foreperson. And you know, like the self-tape, it was just one of those things where it was like, all right, it's such a short part. You know, it's going to come down to, you know, they know me, but it's like, you know, what do I look like or whatever. And I just kind of just dashed it off because I was like, okay, you know, whatever. And boom, that's the one that I booked.
Because you were being the most authentic. Because you're like, okay, I'll just say the right side in the moment.
Exactly. Yeah, that is actually true. That is true. It was just me being me. I'm just like, okay, I could be sitting in a jury.
That's right. That's how it works.
And
Awesome. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, Terry.
It's so good to see
if I don't say it, if I don't say it at the Emmys, you know, on a
Say it
podium,
at the Emmys.
know that you're when I say thank you, you don't know that you're right there at the top of the list.
By the way, everyone, Krisha is coaching. Do you want to say anything about that, Krisha? Or Jamie, do
It's
you want to put how people can get in touch with Krisha?
Sure, I'm doing audition specific coaching, so it's not like a general coaching. It's just if you have an audition and you want to coach for that specific audition, that's what I've been doing lately. And I'm obviously best with multi-camera comedy, but I have also been coaching a little bit of drama as well, which has been super fun. Um, I, I didn't think I would enjoy it, but I'm actually really enjoying working one-on-one with people over Zoom, trying to get them to the very best that they can be and as authentic as they can be. And it's wonderful to get to know actors on that one-on-one level as well, because as I'm casting other projects, if I've had that opportunity, it's really special to be able to know that, oh, they are right for this, or they're not, or let me give them one little note. It's great.
Fantastic. Okay, Jamie will put that, how to reach you, in the chat.
Perfect. In the meantime, Fawn Anderson, I saw you had a question if you want to come up.
I think
Hi.
we have time for one or two more
Hi,
after.
Terry. Hi, Terry. Nice to meet
Hi.
you. Nice to meet you,
I'm
Krisha.
gonna
Hi.
Nice
I'm
to
gonna
meet you.
add pin because you're not showing up. There you go.
Everybody. Okay, quick question. The slating. Do we do we do we match what we're auditioning for during our slate? Can we be ourselves and then get into the character? What do you like? What's best?
Well, everyone's going to have a different answer to that question. For me, I'm a big believer in the slate is where we get to know you as a human person, and then let the scene be you as that character. My business partner, Jamie, I have a Jamie too. My Jamie disagrees, and she thinks that you start being the character in the slate. So you're going to get different answers from different people. I think the most important thing is to know that it's the time where we get to know a little bit about you as a person. So I think it's a great opportunity to give us a little something about who you are, because ultimately we're hiring a human person, not to be on set. We want to know who that all is.
Thank
Love
you
it.
so much.
Of course.
That's a great question.
Different
It
answers
is.
everywhere.
It
I-
is. Thank you
um,
so much, Fawn. You said we have time for a couple more questions?
Yeah.
Great.
As I said before, I just love the short scene study, and Anusha's thanking me and referring to a commercial class that she took with me that I base on short scenes, theatrical short scene study, because it's the same. It's different, but it's the same as
It
far as
is.
acting goes. But then,
Absolutely.
it has its own little rules and regs, just like the different camera venues do.
We'll do it later.
Jamie, you can put in the chat how to reach me. Actually, we have our first commercial acting workshop that starts January 20th. So those of you who are looking
Mm-hmm.
can get in touch.
I love that.
Yep, and I just put all of that info in the chat so that people can register for that, as well as our core Kickstart workshop for beginners looking to get started in voiceover.
Voiceover, yeah.
It's great.
Um,
All right.
Florina, I saw you had a question.
Yes, hi, thank you so much.
Of course.
I actually had a few questions, but I'll just ask the most important ones. For you, does energy speak louder than the words they're saying? The energy that they're transmitting when they're doing the scene?
Absolutely. The energy that comes from your heart and soul and gut, it comes out beaming through your eyes. And that's what we're looking for most importantly. Absolutely. That connection.
Thank you so much. And the other question is, I know the 1 minute per page, and some people just want you to be exactly like that. But sometimes you're feeling the role differently, and maybe you're speaking very fast or you're taking your time so you don't hit the mark. You take 30 seconds or a minute and a half. Does that affect in any way the audition?
It does, because in multi-camera comedy, there is a pace to the show itself. And especially in multi-camera comedy, if you slow that comedy, those words down and take all this time,
Can you go
you've
get the
essentially
$20
turned,
things we return $20 thing?
Andrea, I'm going to mute you.
okay, you've essentially turned the comedy into a drama.
Exactly. So for the drama, that's okay.
Drama's different. Yeah. But in multi-camera comedy, you've got to keep your pace up. Otherwise, you're not hitting the comedic beats in the way that multi-camera comedy is like a piece of music. It tells you how it needs to be played. And you
Yes,
need to play it that way. Otherwise, you're not playing the same song.
I get it completely.
What?
And the last question, what is your take on coming into the camera and not
Oh,
being there from the start?
it's a very effective depending on what you're communicating. You know, when people get really angry and they lean really close into the camera, it gets very intimidating. I think you can use it however you need to. Completely, absolutely. Use it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Awesome. So last question. I saw Diana Lansleen had a question. If you want to come up, Diana. Perfect.
Hi.
Hello, it's so nice to meet you virtually, Krisha, and thank you, Terry and Jamie, for doing these. It's so fantastic. My question was about how what advice. I said you've cast shows and projects that actors change age ranges, and I wanted any tips of like what you would suggest as far as navigating returning from work or a gap, in your career in that way. Also, especially, I put it as an extra note, like if you're doing something else, if you went off and produced, or if you worked in a different medium for voiceover, a lot of times you're not going to list what you're doing with our NDAs. So any input you could give on that would be fantastic.
Oh, that's the whole NDA thing is a whole other conversation for sure. That's so hard to deal with until projects are out. And you can't really, there's nothing else to say other than whatever. When I look at resumes to see where you've been, I don't really factor in any gaps. I sort of go, if you've worked, and I don't care when that was. I just assume that you've been having life, like that. You're having your life, and people, the beauty of being an actor is that you can walk away from it and come back to it and do life and come back. And maybe what you've gone off to do has enriched your performing. So that's what I'm hoping for. I don't really take it into account, and I don't know that you necessarily need to concern yourself with making people aware of, I was off having a kid, or I was off whatever you were doing. Doesn't matter. It's really nobody's business. And so you just go, I'm here, and I took a hiatus and I'm back, and yay, ready to work. And just sort of leave it as a I'm back and ready to work positive. I don't think you need to worry about it, and I don't think you need to explain yourself to anyone.
Well, yeah, and then I was actually wondering too, like now that we're going to IPs, so many IPs are rebooting, and you're having a renaissance of people coming back. How important is it that somebody knows like that previous story in that IP if they're auditioning for your current shows?
I think it's important only in as much as that specific part of the IP is coming back. So for example, I'm working on Hollywood Arts, which is the Victorious IP. So it has a history, and people are excited about the history of it. And some of it applies, but most of it doesn't. So it's a really because we're not doing a continuation from right where it ended, but it's a brand new everything, and everything's changed, and there's new teachers and new kids and new experiences. It's just at the same school. So the IP still exists, but it's different. So it's I think, if there's a casting director that's back or doesn't know you from a previous IP that you had something in it, I would be like, send in a little note or have your reps say, hey, by the way. But a lot of people who were in the original are not going to be a part of this new one. So even though some of the people have reached out and been like, I don't know that we're going to ever get to that part of the storyline, but I'm glad to, know that you're available and interested if we go there. So it's hard to navigate, and each reboot of the IP is going to be its own different thing. I never know what to expect.
Thank you so much. That was so insightful. I'm glad there's going to be a replay. I can go back and listen again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to meet you, and thank
Nice
you,
to meet
everyone.
you.
You're welcome. Yes, there will be a replay. We send it to everyone who registered, and it will also be on social media. Krisha, I can't thank you enough. This was fabulous.
Thank
Packed
you,
with
Terry.
insightful information, and so authentic. That's why I love these inside rooms. It's just so authentic, and you guys who come repeatedly, welcome. We appreciate it, and new people, welcome. And stay tuned. We try to do these about every month and a half.
Great.
And yeah, informational. Krisha, thank you so much. If you have any
Thank you
last
guys so
words,
much.
I'm going to give you the floor to say them.
Oh, I just want to say thank you to everybody who comes and listens and has questions. I think it speaks volumes to the type of actor who wants to come and wants to hear and wants to learn anything new and different, and continue to expand their knowledge of the industry, in the same way that I sit in panels and on panels and learn new things each and every time too, because it's a collaborative experience, and just grateful. And thank you, Terry, and thank you, Jamie, for inviting me to come. It's awesome.
You guys can all show yourself to say goodbye to Krisha.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys all so much for coming. Thank you, Krisha, for doing this. I'm very excited for all of our 2026, and I hope we all have a wonderful year.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
And thank you, Krisha.
Thank you.